TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Welcome back to another edition of the TWSN Tailgate Show. As always, I am Matt Levine, joined by my co-host Josh Northcutt. Josh, how you doing today on this fine Thursday?
Today, not so bad. A lot better than I was doing Saturday. Boy, if we would have had a show like the day after or like the night after that game, I would have been losing it. Not too happy about it, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
What happened on Saturday? What are you talking about? What happened on Saturday? I don't remember anything bad that happened. My team played okay on Saturday, I guess.
You barely beat Louisiana Tech by what, 20?
A win is a win, Josh. A win is a win.
A win is a win. Yeah, I wouldn't know what that feels like.
Yeah, you wouldn't because you're not an LSU fan. And yeah, but we'll get into all of that from last week here in a minute. But welcome back, everybody. As always, TWSN Tailgate presented by TWSN. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have a lot of great stuff coming out every single Thursday here at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time. We are going live to talk college football, but we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about a little bit from last week first. But first, we're going to talk about some of these picks that Josh and I made. So if you don't know, every week we do 6-game picks between the two of us. And here's our results from last week. It's not been a great season for me, but I am on the come up here. I'm 5-7 now after a 4-2 week. As you can see, Josh and I both got Oklahoma. We both got Mississippi State. I beat him with Missouri. We both got Iowa State. Josh surprisingly got the Baylor pick correct and the Illinois pick. But we're not talking about Baylor because we excommunicated them from the rest of the year unless they actually get to the championship game or something. But Josh, anything you want to say about these 6 games before we go into our takeaways from last week?
Yeah, I'll just quickly recap everything. What a letdown by Duke. Absolutely disappointing performance. All that hype that we were talking about could have been the game of the week. I will talk about Baylor real fast. Sawyer Robertson is that dude.
I told you.
Somehow, some way they can win maybe 9 games, that dude should walk away with the Heisman if he keeps doing what he's doing, because he is single-handedly keeping Baylor in games and winning games. Iowa State, Iowa, what a classic Cyhawk battle. Just boring smash mouth football, but entertaining. It's so weird.
That's how every year with them. Every year. Doesn't matter.
Kansas kind of laying the egg after the 21-3 lead, I believe it was. I can't believe they blew that. Jalen Daniels was basically the entire team, and Missouri's backup quarterback, now starting quarterback, Bo Perbola. What a game by him. And then as for Mississippi State, we talked about it. Sometimes you don't need an explanation. You really don't. You just got to go off your gut. And the gut was right on this one. Beautiful game, classic college football action. And Starksville became Upsetville over Arizona State. And then the game. I said Michigan was going to lose. All offseason, I said Michigan was going to lose.
I think this leads us right into our takeaway. Josh has a little rant about his Wolverines that we all want to hear.
You're not going to go into Norman with an 18-year-old and probably win, especially with the experience that was on that Oklahoma team. As we talked about it, Brent Venables' defense looked phenomenal, by the way. Lived up to the hype that we all thought it would be. But, Matt, I have a question for you. You, as an LSU fan, know a lot about Bryce Underwood because he was supposed to go to your school, but he got smart and went to Michigan.
Smart. Okay. Yeah, continue.
So, $12 million might have to play a role in it too, but we're not going to talk about that. But if you have Bryce Underwood, are you going to let him use your legs at all?
You would think,
right? You would think, right?
You would think if you want to keep a job, you would think.
3 rushes. One of them was scripted. That's my complaint number one. I will admit there was a few times he'd launched the ball downfield when he might have had some room to run, but I think that's just a gunslinger in him. Maybe he'll advance a little bit of that. But then the play calling. And this was my biggest pet peeve. Shout out to Bill Sparks, by the way, for giving me a heads up of where I can go back and watch every single one of these throws. This was his start a 2-yard out route, a -4 screen, 30 yards downfield, wasn't near anyone, and then a 20-yard outside the pocket. They leveled it out so he didn't have to look at the whole field. They said you got the middle and you got the right. And he hit a 20-yard dot on a dime. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful play. Started the game 4 of 5. 2 of them were behind the line of scrimmage. Michigan doesn't have the weapons to be running screen routes. I don't know what we're thinking. That's a different point. So 4 of 5 to start. He went 3 of 14 the rest of the game if you don't count the last drive.
Yeah.
I don't count it because they were out of it already. They were down 10. They were just going to try to quickly go score. The game was over. 3 of 14. You handcuffed him. Absolutely handcuffed him. And there was a throw or two he missed. But you've got to let him get outside the pocket. You got to let him shorten the field a little bit. And you just got to let him use his legs sometimes. Michigan is so caught up in the mindset that they still want to run smash mouth football. It's not going to work when you have a guy like Bryce.
You got to change
You
for
can
him.
still do it, but you got to give him some routes and you got to give him some wide receivers. So I saw Dave Portnoy joke that, hey, Chris Henry, I don't know if you saw what happened to Oracle, but the owner is the officially richest person in the world, and he might be the #1 booster for Michigan. No big deal. But they've got to go get him some weapons this offseason. I saw it. Everyone has seen it over the 2 weeks. But boy, oh boy, is the way of the future possibly, to switch subjects, the way Oklahoma and Utah are building their offenses by bringing a G5, G6, whatever you want to say, quarterback and coordinator who are tearing it up into your system. Because it's working great for Utah, and we saw on Saturday it's working absolutely great for Oklahoma.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of transfer quarterbacks early in this season just making a massive impact. It's been kind of crazy, to be honest, just seeing the amount of quarterbacks that have just been, or new places that are thriving. And honestly, our guy Bill Sparks brings up a great point here, because this leads me into what I wanted to talk about real quick. Kansas, Missouri, as we talked, you mentioned a little earlier, Bo Pribula. Man, that guy looked good on Saturday. He has been turning heads a little bit since he came in, the former Penn State guy. He's thrown for over 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions in the 2 games. I have a question for you, Josh, because I kind of agree here with Bill. Is it time to take the Tigers a little seriously? Because I'm starting to think that might be. They get Alabama and they get South Carolina at home over the next, I think, 4 weeks or something like that. I think they can beat them both. I mean, well, I'm sure we'll talk about that in a couple weeks, but am I crazy here? This is just something I've been thinking about since I watched him just tear up Kansas. Granted, it was Kansas. Kansas's defense is hit or miss, but still, he was impressive. He's been impressive since he came into the game in week 1 after Sam Horn went down. But can the Tigers make some noise? Because I'm starting to think they can a little bit.
I'm going to have to still wait and see.
Okay.
Just because I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, they've won 10 games the last 2 years, and then they kind of fall off a little bit in the SEC. They'll slip up. They got a tough schedule, but it's not the toughest of the SEC. As you mentioned, they get South Carolina at home. They get Alabama at home. They get our Auburn boys on the road, though.
Yeah.
And then they get Vanderbilt on the
road, I think. Or they get A&M at home.
On the road, A&M, Mississippi State, at Oklahoma, and at Arkansas. Can you imagine a world, though, if we're coming November 22nd and we're talking Missouri at Oklahoma for a chance at the SEC championship?
Why not? I mean, we've seen weirder things happen every year in college football, and quite honestly, I'm here for it. Let these new bloods have some reign in the SEC.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning earlier, Bill. That's the reason I was so high on Utah. I love them, Devin Dampier and Jason Beck. It looks like an up-and-coming offensive coordinator to keep your eye on. But what's crazy to me, and I still kind of laugh at it, the head coach and the offensive coordinator are BYU grads coaching at Utah. You think they're allowed to go back to campus?
I think so. Maybe we'll see when they play each other later this year. We'll see. It's been interesting. Are there any other notable outcomes from last week that you want to talk about? I'll just quickly highlight one real quick. I don't need to go too in depth, but UNLV, man, we're same with Baylor. We're scraping UCLA from my mind. We're not talking about them anymore. First win over a Big Ten conference opponent in 22 years. I mean, Dan Mullen has these guys playing. I know you had mentioned them previously, but I just want to shout out the Rebels. That was a great win for them. And honestly, I'm kind of excited to see where this program goes.
Sometimes I like being right about things. I do believe Dan Mullen will probably be a 1 year and done. I don't know if you ever heard about the rumors of like UNLV basically not having the money to pay out his whole contract. So it's like no buyout whatsoever if he decides to leave. That's something to keep an eye on. And there is going to be some schools opening up that Dan Mullen fits that system very well. However, the team, obviously, I think everybody wants to talk about is if they played for any other of the Power 4 conferences, they'd be a top 5 team right now. They've beaten 2 top 5 or 25 teams in college football. The AP voters are absolutely disrespecting USF. What other team has beaten 2 top 25 teams? If that was Alabama, they'd be number 1. If that's LSU, they'd be number 1. It would not matter. At least top 5, and they got them in the teens. And one voter, not to harp on it because I'm sure everybody heard about it all week, had Florida above them. How does that make sense?
I think it's a collective, if you want my honest opinion, because I feel like if they were to play again, Florida probably wins.
Would they, though?
I think they would. I'm not going to disrespect the Gators.
They were. I know you were super high.
If you want me to disrespect the Gators, I will disrespect them after Saturday. I will not disrespect them before Saturday.
See, I'm going to disrespect them before.
You can disrespect. I'm not disrespecting them until after the game is over.
That being said, though, unfortunately, the way everything fell into place, we don't get to talk about either one of those games. So I did want to quickly highlight that I do think Florida could upset LSU. I do. It's that bounce back spot that, okay, everybody's doubting us. It was a look ahead game. DJ Lagway goes out there and has that Heisman performance that you predicted. And then on the other end of it, this is the perfect opportunity for Miami to just be like, okay, we are officially back. Because now Florida couldn't beat USF. If they just smack around USF, the U is going to get a lot of respect and a lot of credit out for it. And if USF pulls the upset and they aren't ranked in the top 5, I'm officially done with the AP poll, and we will find another way to put rankings up when we talk this. Because there is no way, if you beat Miami in Miami, you are not a top 5 team in this college football era right now.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. That's going to be a fun one to watch. LSU's offense is going to be interesting to see how they can get going because they've been a little slow to start the year. But I do agree that Florida is an upset candidate this week. But we're going to see. I hope not, but we're gonna see what happens. Were there any performances from last week that just really stuck out to you? Like you're like, man, that was really impressive. Like sitting back, just what did I just watch? That was awesome.
I mean, we kind of already talked about it. Bo Perbola, he didn't even win the job. He wasn't going to be the starter. And then he goes out there and he looks like the guy that it's like, should he have maybe stayed at Penn State and been Penn State's quarterback? Because you want to talk about a team who's sleepwalking right now. Penn State and Nittany Lions. I'm officially out on them, by the way. I'm officially out on them. They're going to Penn State this thing, and they're going to lose a game they shouldn't. But, yeah, Bo Perbola for sure was one that caught my eye. And then John Mateer, he did everything that I thought he would do, but I needed to see it versus upper conference or upper teams, and he did it versus a very good Michigan defense. But as Bill mentioned, I don't know if he can carry the ball 19 times a game in the SEC and survive.
No. What about our guy Blake Shapen?
Yeah.
Come on. Can we talk? Like I know you mentioned it. Can we just quickly talk about this? The Bulldogs' first non-conference home win since 1991. The cowbell is going. Let's like, I'm so happy for this Mississippi State program. And we talked about it a lot last week. We both had them to win the game, but Shapen went out there and won this game. Like, he was, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons why they won this game. And I there were questions. Can he get it done? Can he win those games for them? And he did against, look, I know you aren't the highest on Arizona State, but they were a ranked team. They were a top 15 ranked team. And they went to the playoff last year. That was a huge win for this program. Maybe Jeff Libby doesn't get fired at the end of the year. Who knows?
He shouldn't. He should not.
That's the thing.
He should have never been arguably getting fired. That man took over a program that unfortunately fell into hard times because of what happened to the Pirate. But what he has done now to rebuild it, like, the only thing that Mississippi State has been known for, unfortunately, the last 2 years is being Brandon Walker's favorite team, and that's unfortunate. I'll leave it at that.
They're back. The cowbell's ringing. They're here.
Go make a bowl game. Surprise everybody and make a bowl game.
I'm here for it. I am here for it. But before we get into week 3, right? I have one more question for you from week 2.
Of course.
What's an overreaction that you have, if you have one, from the week that you've been thinking about it, just eating at you, whether it's good or bad? It could go either way. Well, is there anything that you're overreacting to from this past week?
Not exactly this week, but the first 2 weeks of the season, I'm officially out on Penn State and Clemson. That was my national championship, and I'm out on both. They're not winning playing the football that they're playing. Stop playing with your food. Put your foot on the throat and go win games. There's a reason why I'm super high on the Ducks now. Wow, oh, wow, is that team just saying, oh, you want to talk about our team? We're dropping 70 on you. What they did to Oklahoma State, they have a quarterback now. They absolutely have a quarterback now. And I know we say it every year about the Ducks, but I think this could maybe be the year they finally get it done.
Maybe. We'll see. But thank you for bringing up the Ducks, because this leads me into my overreaction. And I don't even know if this is really an overreaction, but it's time for Mike Gundy to go. It's time. And I was the biggest Mike Gundy fan for a long time. I loved that team a few years ago that went to the Big 12 championship game, that lost on that weird goal line stop to Baylor. I was advocating for them that year. Like, I was all about the Cowboys. What the hell has happened to Oklahoma State? I know they were horrible last year, but to go, like, as you mentioned, to lose 69-3, are you kidding me? Like, are you actually kidding me? This was the worst loss, most lopsided loss in Oklahoma State's history since 1907. Oklahoma got statehood in 1907. So they've lost 10 straight games to FBS opponents. Oregon had scored 8 touchdowns before the end of the third quarter. If you want to compare to what Oklahoma State did then, they had 7 completed passes, 6 first down. That is it. It was a beatdown of beatdowns. And I don't really know what else to do with Oklahoma State at this point, because things are unraveling quickly. Gundy was getting into it with Dan Lanning before the game. It was just a weird situation. I'm done. He has already agreed to that restructured contract he got earlier in in January, February. I'm done. He needs to go. He needs to go somewhere else. Oklahoma State needs to set up for the future. They can't do this anymore.
That's how I feel. They have to plan for their future, and he's clearly not the future anymore.
No,
it's sad, because he's the face of Oklahoma State. Till the day I die, when I think Oklahoma State, I'm going to think of him.
Yep.
So it's disappointing for that to end that way, but sometimes it could work out for both. He could go somewhere else, regather himself, find his kind of players and his kind of style. But I sometimes wonder if his style just doesn't work in college football nowadays.
Maybe not in this era.
Even the whole, I'm 40, I'm a man speech. Like, these kids are 18, 22 years old, making almost as much money as you, Gundy. They're allowed to be attacked now.
Yeah, I'm all out on Gundy. Any other takeaways from week 2 before we look ahead to week 3?
Nope, just what Bill said earlier that popped up. I 100% agree. Drew Aller and Cade Klubnik's, their draft stock and their Heisman stock. I could not sell that off fast enough after those being one of the 2 top guys that I was considering looking at earlier in the year.
We'll talk about Klubnik. We'll talk. But we want to get into something we do here every single week on the show, and that is Josh's rivalry spotlight before we actually get into our 6 games. Josh, take it away. Tell us about a rivalry that's coming up this week.
Yeah, so we got a few rivalry games this weekend. We got Wake Forest and NC State kicking off tonight. We got Georgia Tech, Clemson. We're going to talk about that one. The SEC matchups of Florida, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee. We'll talk about Georgia, Tennessee. We got the backyard brawl back in our lives. And Rich Rodriguez is taking on Pitt. Last time they did that. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. So that left one game left. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of information on this game. But it's FIU versus FAU in the Shula Bowl. A tribute to the greatest coach, arguably in NFL history. Now that Bill's got the little bit of asterisk, was it Brady? Was it not him? A lot of respect to Shula. Still the only undefeated team of all time. Huge name. Kind of was built off the concept that the first coaches for FIU and FAU had a tie to Shula. They've met 22 times, and FAU has dominated 17-5. The first game was played in 2002. They played every year up till 2023 when they finally split conferences. And they're back playing each other. Kind of looking forward to it. Only a 2.5-point spread. And if you want to check it out, it's at 6 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN+.
Yeah, that should be fun. And thank you for highlighting this rivalry as you do every single week. But let's get into these games. We have 6 different games we want to kind of break down, talk about. We're going to first start with Duke taking on Tulane. Now, this is an interesting one because Duke, again, I picked Duke to win last week. They let me down. You brought that up. That was a bad pick on my part. I thought Darian Mensah would look better than he did. Granted, he didn't play horribly, but the Blue Devils as a whole just kind of faltered in that game. He gets to make a return to Tulane, where he just transferred from. Tulane has a chance to show him, we don't need you. He has a chance to show him, yes, you do. Where are you going with this game?
I'm going with the first thing you said. I think Tulane's going to go out there and basically say, we're going to make anybody else on Duke beat us except for you. And we're going to show you why you should have stayed here and why you could have easily been in the college football playoff and you didn't need that Power 4 money. So I like Tulane to win at home. And by the way, what a situation we have here. Another Power 4 conference going on the road to a G5 school. Don't see this too often, but the last few weeks, there's been 2 or 3 teams to do this. I believe it's either this week or next week. Iowa State is also doing it, and Utah is also doing it. They're playing some teams out west. It's kind of weird for these Power 4 schools to be doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's good for the sport, if you want my opinion, though. I think it's great. And I'm going to give Duke one more chance here. I'm going to go with the Blue Devils. I think Mensah is going to ball out a little bit. Now, the Green Wave are 2-0. They were very good on third down last week. I think they went 9 for 17, 9 for 18. They were very effective. But I think Duke is going to have a bounce-back game. Duke's won the last 3 meetings against Tulane. They're going to make it a fourth straight here. Give me the Blue Devils. One last time, Duke. I'm not picking them after that. I can't do it. I give you 2 chances. I can't do it.
I will say, though, Tulane doesn't have a bad quarterback now. They kind of lucked into the whole BYU situation and ended up landing Jake Retzlaff. So they got a little gunslinger.
And their defense is decent. It's decent. And I think they could test Mensah, but I think Duke is going to pull this one out. Well, we'll see, but I think Duke's going to pull this one out. But we're going to move on to our next game here. We got Pitt going up against West Virginia. As you mentioned this a little earlier. This is going to be a fun game because West Virginia's offense has been a little shaky to start. It hasn't been very good to see. Their defense, though, has been pretty damn good. I don't believe they've allowed a point in the second half in their first 2 games, which is kind of impressive. I don't care who you're playing. Chase Wilson, the linebacker, he's been excellent. 3 sacks through 2 games. I think he has a chance he can make a difference in this game. But where are you going? What is your thought about this game? Like anything you're looking forward to, any matchups you're looking to break down? Like, what are you thinking here?
So my whole mindset is this is the first time that Rich Rod will play Pitt since they spoiled his BCS championship. That West Virginia team back in 2007 had the gateway. It was right there for him. West Virginia was going to the national title, and then Pitt beats them. When it comes to rivalry, you throw the records out, you throw the numbers out. It's just different. And I think with Pat White on the sideline and Rich Rod back in Morgantown, West Virginia will upset Pitt this weekend.
No. It's not gonna. No, that's not happening. I'm sorry. I cannot trust this West Virginia offense. I can't. I can't do it. And quite frankly, the Panthers offense is averaging 7.5 yards per play. That's really good. And I really cannot see West Virginia's defense slowing down Pitt. I can't. Eli Holstein has been playing very well. I think he's going to dominate it again. Raphael Williams, 6 receptions, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns last week. He's getting in the end zone again. I'm calling it right now. He's going to get in maybe twice. This might I can't say it's going to be a blowout. I'm not going to call that. Pitt is going to win this, and I think Pitt, and I think I mentioned them earlier in the year. I think Pitt is a sleeper college football playoff team. And I think they're going to prove it this weekend. Granted, West Virginia is not the greatest of teams, but I think they're going to win this game.
And Bill actually just stole what I was about to say. West Virginia did take a hit with their leading rusher, Jaheim White, getting injured. Horse collar tackle, horrible situation. You always hate to see that happen. But I'm telling you, it's something about the rivalry. It just, you throw it out the window, and they're going to be absolutely motivated to pull this upset.
I mean, we'll see. I'm going with Pitt. You're going with West Virginia. That's another one that we're going to, I'm liking my chances to make a comeback in this pick 'em against you here this week. This is the week. This is the week that I'm going to end up, coming back here.
Okay.
And when everything's all said and done, I'm going to have a better record than you. And
okay, I'll believe it when I see it.
You'll see it starting this week. I started my little comeback last week. That was a little taste of everything. I made some wrong picks. Whatever. I don't care. We're going to move on to our next game. We got Vanderbilt going up against South Carolina. To me, this is a very interesting matchup. I know I've said this about a few other games, but we have 2 SEC teams here who don't really get the respect of being SEC teams, if you want my honest opinion. What do you think about this game?
So the way I see it, it's either you love him or hate him. Diego Pavia going against potential number 1 pick, Lenore Sellers. In a college football game, everyone's got to think Diego Pavia, the momentum that Vanderbilt's carrying. South Carolina hasn't looked great. They played a team they played the same team. In week 1, South Carolina played Virginia Tech 24-11, needed a punt return basically to pull that one away. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt played that same Virginia Tech team in Virginia Tech and beat them 44-20. They shut them out in the second half. They just looked like a completely different animal. And I say all that just to say South Carolina is going to beat Vanderbilt. I am taking Lenore Sellers with that talent. Plain and simple as that. I see him taking a step forward, the offense taking a step forward, and I love the connection of Sellers to Nick Harbor to find the end zone twice this weekend.
Twice. Okay. Well, this is the first game we're in agreement. I'm taking South Carolina as well. They entered the year with very high expectations, and I wasn't as high as other people on them. I wanted to see them prove it first because after 1 year of being good, defensive coordinators, they start to scheme. My biggest question coming into it was, can Lenore Sellers, can he look like the quarterback everybody thinks he can be, right? He's been a little underwhelming so far. But I agree with you. This is the game where he can show what he can do. He can shine. If the Gamecocks want to be taken seriously, they have to win this game. They cannot lose to Vanderbilt. That's not a shot at Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt has been playing very well this year, as we've talked about. But this is one of those games that just, to me, has like a defining feeling of a season. Yes. I don't know why. Again, this is one of those like the gut feelings that you've talked about. I think if South Carolina is ever going to take that next step towards being a dominant team, or at least having that respect in the SEC, they have to win this week. I think they get it done. But I think this game's going to come down to the last couple minutes. I think this is going to be a lot closer than people think. This might be the game of the week. I'm not going to officially guarantee that, but I think this is the game of the week for me.
And also, I get the way contracts work. You got to move games around, this and that. 7:45 start time, great. Eyes on the prime time. Problem, it's on the SEC network. Why isn't this at least getting the ESPN look? I know they got to move things around and they got to make sure everybody fits into place, but this game belongs on ESPN at worst.
Agreed. This is going to be a fun one. We got two top quarterbacks going at it. It's going to be a fun one. Yeah, I agree right there. Our guy Bill knows ball, everybody.
That he does.
Bill knows ball. Listen to Bill. Bill knows ball. Read his articles on our website. Follow him on social media. He knows ball. Like, if you want to learn about football, you want to learn about things, go talk to Bill. I know you shouted him out a few times here. He knows his stuff.
Yeah.
But let's move on, because we have 3 games coming up that are the meat of the weekend, I guess, which is kind of weird because I think the Vanderbilt game is going to be very good. We got Clemson taking on Georgia Tech. We have our guy David here in the comments saying Tech over Clemson market. Man. What do you think, Josh? Because I believe we disagree on this one, but where are you going? And I'll explain after that.
So I'm going to need to make sure, and I'm putting an asterisk on this, that I'm allowed to change. Yeah. I need to make sure Haynes King is playing. Okay. I need to make sure Haynes King is playing.
I think he was trending towards playing.
Yeah, everything says he's playing. Everything says he's looking healthy, but you never know. You wake up Saturday, especially with his body. I mean, that's been his downfall the entire time in college. He just can't stay healthy. But if Haynes King plays and he doesn't have any question about his mobility, I agree with David. Georgia Tech is going to upset Clemson this weekend, and Haynes King is going to now enter into the discussion a Heisman Trophy, and Georgia Tech is going to enter the discussion as ACC champions, just as I predicted early in the season.
I don't think so. I don't know about that. I don't think that's going to happen. Because I think Clemson's about to show everybody why everyone picked them as national championship contenders this year. They've started out slow. Granted, I loved it in week 1. That was beautiful. I loved it. Clemson, I'm glad they lost week 1. Last week was a little weird. They go down to Troy. Everyone thinks they might lose, but then they come storming back, right? Avoid the big upset. Now they get Georgia Tech on the road. Everything is pulling against them. All the odds are going against Clemson, right? Against Dabo Swinney. Dabo is typically his best when everyone's pulling against him. When everything is telling him he shouldn't win, Dabo wins. When Dabo is the favorite, he typically loses. That's what since they won those titles a few years ago, that's literally what's been happening with Dabo and Clemson. I think Cade Klubnik is going to show why he was a Heisman favorite entering this year. I think Clemson is going to roll the Yellow Jackets. Roll them. This isn't to say that I think Georgia Tech is a bad team. But I think with King being a little hobbled, even if he plays, I think that's going to end up changing some things. And I know they are 2 different teams, but do you remember the last time King played Clemson? Do you remember what happened?
I'm going to assume it probably didn't go too well.
4 interceptions, 42-21 loss in 2023. Granted, two different teams, but the same head coach, he can scheme against this guy. I think Clemson flexes their muscles and shows everybody why exactly they were a top team going into the year. They've been playing around a little bit the first 2 weeks. I think they're going to show it this week.
I will ask you, if Clemson were to lose this game, do they have to win out?
Probably. Just because that would be another loss. They almost lost to Troy. I would think they would have to probably win out. So, yeah, this is a big game for Clemson, and I think they're going to get it done. We'll see. This is another one where I'm going to climb back in the standings. You'll see. You'll see on Saturday. But we're going over to Georgia and Tennessee here. This is a fun one because we got two SEC top teams, and I know everybody loves talking about the SEC. We just loved it. It's everyone's favorite conference. It's the only conference that matters. That's the only, in my opinion. No one cares about any other conference. It's the only one that matters. Is this the year that the Volunteers finally take down the Bulldogs? Finally.
No.
Because they've lost 8 in a row, and it hasn't been close. Every single game has been by double digits. The closest they came was, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. They lost by 2 touchdowns.
It was 14 points last year, and
or was it last? Yeah, they haven't come close in 8 years. It's been brutal. Georgia has owned them. Do the Volunteers win this game, or does Georgia's dominance continue?
I mean, I already have answered it, and I'll say it again. No, Tennessee does not win this game. I think this is similar to what we've been seeing last year. Tennessee had all that hype. If you remember, Nico was a Heisman contender because they were outscoring teams left and right in the non-conference schedule. And then they got in the SEC play, and then Tennessee remembered who they were. They couldn't score more than 30 points. They still made the college football playoff. That's great. But they're nowhere near the level of Georgia. Do I have a little bit concerned because Gunnar Stockton? Yes, absolutely. I do not trust Gunnar Stockton. The man couldn't complete passes versus Austin Peay. How's he going to do versus Tennessee? Well, I'll tell you how he's going to do versus Tennessee. He's going to hand the ball off. Georgia's going to do old school Georgia football. They're going to run all over Tennessee. And I'm going to make that dumb statement, and I know I'm going to regret it. In a week from now, we're going to do it all over again. But I see an absolute butt whooping put on by the Dogs, and at least a 3-score game, if not 4. I am hammering that -6.5, by the way. That is insane to me. A touchdown with both starting cornerbacks out in this game, Georgia's going to roll.
Yeah, Georgia's dominance is going to continue. I'm sorry, Volunteer fans, you guys are going to lose once again. And I know we're not a college basketball show, but this just seems to be a thing with Tennessee sports. At least maybe not the women's basketball team because they've won some things. But Tennessee looks great. They look great, and then they falter. They can't win when it matters. It's just I don't know what it is. I don't know what happens to them. Happens in college basketball. As you mentioned, it happened in college football last year. It's going to happen again this year. Joey Aguilar is going to have the game of his life, and I don't think he can do that against this Georgia defense.
And can you imagine that? Welcome to the SEC. Your first defense is Kirby Smart in Georgia.
Yep. And am I wrong? It's kind of felt like Georgia's used the first 2 weeks as scrimmages to kind of feel everything out. I know you mentioned about Gunnar Stockton. I think he'll be fine. He doesn't need to do too much with that team, but it's been a little weird. They've kind of just been – seems like they're just practicing out there. Like, hey, we know we're going to win the game. Who cares? We'll just go out there, fine-tune some things, and get ready for the real schedule that's coming up.
That's 100% how it seems it is. It's not like the Penn State situation I mentioned earlier where they're not beating teams like they normally would. It's just the fact that it seems like Kirby went out there and said, well, Gunnar, I want you to throw the ball 30 times so I know when we need to throw 30, if you can do it, or you can get used to needing to throw the ball 30 times. Because eventually they're going to need Gunnar Stockton to do something.
Yeah.
You're not winning in college football without a playmaker at the quarterback position. So he's going to have to make some big throws. This Tennessee game isn't it.
No, we are in agreement on that. I'm sorry to all the Volunteer fans. You guys are going to have to wait another year to beat the Dogs. Georgia's going to roll you. Sorry. But we're going to move on to our final game here, which I arguably think is the biggest of the weekend. I think it's bigger than the Georgia-Tennessee game just because the history, I just don't see that game being the biggest. And that's Texas A&M heading down to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. Now, we haven't seen Notre Dame since they lost week 1 to Miami. Mm-hmm. Where are you going with this? Do you think they bounce back, or do you think the Aggies get some revenge for last year?
Beginning of the year, I said the Aggies were going to make the college football playoff, and they were going to win this Notre Dame game. Last I checked, there hasn't been any major injuries on the A&M side. They're still got Marcel Reed at quarterback. It is going to be a situation where I get it's a little bit easier for a redshirt freshman to get his quote-unquote first start. But what a first start at home this is. Versus the Aggies defense? That is a lot of pressure on CJ Carr. Do I think he could back it up? Absolutely. But I just think the experience of having 7 on offense, 8 on defense from last year's team that was a game away from the SEC championship game before they lost to Texas is going to carry some momentum over and be able to go into South Bend and pull off the win. I won't say upset because they're both 2 ranked teams, but pull off the win.
Yeah, this is one of the ones where I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I disagree with you, but you're not wrong. So that's a win for you. You're improving. There you go. I do think Notre Dame's going to win this game. I think they've been stewing since week 1. I think they expected to win that game, obviously, and I think they don't like how that game finished. I don't think they believe Miami's better than them. I think Marcus Freeman's going to have this team ready to go. I think we started to see signs of CJ Carr looking more comfortable as that game went on. And I think it's going to, translate here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the key here for me, do they run the ball? Because Jeremiah Love touched the ball, I think, 14 times in the loss to Miami. 14. He needs more touches than that.
Yeah.
He is one of the best offensive players in the entire country. He is going to need to beat this Aggies team, in my opinion, if Notre Dame wants to win this game. It's not on Carr. I think Carr will be fine. Love is going to be my biggest X factor, and I think he's going to do something this game. I think they're going to unleash him a little bit. I really do. And I really think that Notre Dame is going to get that win being like, you know what? Week 1 was week 1. We didn't really know what was going on. Carson Beck kind of, who expected Carson Beck to look like this, right? After what he did at Georgia. I think Notre Dame bounces back. Give me the Irish in a close game at home. That home field is going to, I think, push them over the edge a little bit. And I don't think there's any redemption from last year. Texas A&M lost control of that game. Give me the Irish. I think the Irish bounce back here.
I just feel like it's time for Marcel Reed to take that next step. It's time for him to have one of those games where it's just like, oh, this is why you are the Aggies quarterback. And I think this is a very good opportunity to do it versus a Notre Dame defense that's still a little bit kind of iffy. A lot of players were replaced. They're playing on Sunday. A defensive coordinator is not there anymore. Again, I don't trust Chris Ash as far as I can throw him. So it's just the mindset that I just think the experience of this Aggies team comes up big, and we see the upset. Well, the win.
The win, yeah. It's going to be a good game. I could see it going either way, but I think Notre Dame pulls it out. But we want to talk about just a couple other games. Josh, who do you think is going to win these games?
All right, so this one's a little bit rough because I don't know a lot about a lot of these teams. ESPN did us absolutely no favors throwing these games out here. Memphis and Troy, I'll just go with the history of the mindset. I know Troy is kind of living a little bit high off of the whole we competed with Clemson. However, I'm going to go with just Memphis because Memphis football is the way to go. Washington State, North Texas. I like North Texas actually to win at home. Appalachian State, USM. I'm a Michigan fan. I will never pick Appalachian State to do anything. So give me USM. And then Minnesota Cal, which, by the way, is kind of a sneaky good game. It's one I'm looking forward to actually sitting down and watching this weekend for the mindset of I love Minnesota's running back. Cal's got that true freshman that everybody is drooling over. I cannot pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try. So I apologize for that. He was originally supposed to go to Oregon and then instantly transferred to Cal because he wasn't going to start at Oregon. Now he's starting at Cal, and they've looked pretty good. And it's just one of those things where it's like if Minnesota's ever going to get over that hump, we kind of talked, and this is drastic of the comparisons, but we kind of talked about South Carolina having to beat Vanderbilt. Yeah. If Minnesota's ever going to get over that hump and be a top mid-tier in the Big Ten, they need to win this weekend. They need to be able to go out to Cal and beat Cal.
I agree. And I just want to say I respect your dedication of hate towards Appalachian State.
I will never forgive them for that day.
Oh, I will 100% forgive them because that was one of the core memories I have of college football.
Yeah, everyone does. It's also a core nightmare for me.
Well, it's Michigan for you.
And then what made the matters worse is afterwards, the Bengals ended up drafting the guy who blocked that kick.
Don't you love when that happens?
I want to say it was Corey Lynch, if I remember his name right.
That might be one of the best things when there's someone in college that you don't like, and then your NFL team picks him up, and it's just like, now you got to root for him. It never
happened. It never happened. I was not touching that.
Yeah, it's always a great time. But here is a recap of our picks from our pick'em. We want any last words here, Josh? For
I'm a little excited. We're different in what, 4 of the games?
Yeah.
The only ones we're agreeing on is South Carolina and Georgia. Everything else, I'm kind of taking a lot of the underdogs in this situation. I get, as I mentioned, Georgia Tech, it's all pending King. Your fact about the 4 interceptions does worry about me a little bit. I totally can see your idea of the game being correct when you say Clemson just routes them and reminds everybody, hey, this is why not only we were national championship contenders, but ACC contenders. But I also just wanted to give a shout out. I saw Blake's comment on here. I think that makes the game more special. He's right. With these big schools going there, it was really cool to see that Ohio-West Virginia game. Like Athens, Ohio, West Virginia is playing there. Mind you, a lot of the West Virginia fans made the travel. But it's made that just feel special, that it was almost like the Super Bowl for OU, and then they pull off the upset. Yeah.
No, I love it. It's expanding the game. You get to have these other teams that some fans may not normally get to see come to their stadium. It's a beautiful thing. College football is here. We're in the middle section of the season. We're entering the middle section of the season. Now we're getting to the fun matchups, right? Yeah, we had some good ones in week 1, right? But we're getting to the rivalry. We're getting to the conference games. This is what we all live for. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see what happens here this weekend. We have a good slate of games here. But yeah, make sure just to like those videos, subscribe to the YouTube channel, go to TWSN.net. We got all sorts of articles coming out, college football, NFL, NBA, everything. We got everything going out there, right? Follow everybody on social media. Give us your takes, comment during the show. Any final words from you, Josh, heading into week 3?
No, just make sure you tune in tomorrow. Houston and Colorado on ESPN. Another fantastic Friday night football game. Dion starting his 3rd-string quarterback, and then Houston looking to make that step into the Big 12 after they put a lot of money into the program.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be fun. But that's going to do it for us here, this week's edition of the TWSN Tailgate. We will see everybody next week right here on the TWSN YouTube channel. Again, next Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. West Coast time for my West Coasters out there. Shout out. We will see you next time. Thank you.
This is TW.